Hello BookTube, this is Lindy. This is Lindy's Magpie Reads, and welcome to another Friday Reads. Thank you so much for subscribing to my channel and for commenting. I've been really enjoying interacting with you all, and especially thank you to Sean the Book Maniac and to Kelly Books I'm Not Reading for shouting out my channel. I really appreciate it. My health update is that the cast is coming off in 4 more days, and I guess there'll be physio after that. And as far as my concussion, my eyesight is the worst of the symptoms that are left. And I saw my optometrist on Wednesday, and she said what I've got is something called convergence insufficiency, and it's that I'm not able to focus on something that's close up like a book, and instead my eyes are kind of drifting outwards when I try and do that. Fortunately, there is physio for that too, so I should be seeing a physiotherapist about concussion therapy, the eye therapy as well, soon. So I'm looking forward to that. Meanwhile, I'm able to read about 10 pages a day, especially if it's large, and I'm holding it far away. It's kind of interesting. Must read, you know. I have finished 5 books in the past week, and I'm currently reading 6. So here they are. First off, People Change by Vivek Shraya. Vivek is a trans femme of South Asian heritage. She is multi-talented. She grew up in Edmonton, my hometown. And in addition to being an author of many books, many kinds of books, she's also an artist, a filmmaker, a playwright, a musician, stage performer, a model. She's represented a cosmetics company in giant billboards. She's, I think, a hair product as well. Hair has no gender, don't you know? And she's made Canada's Best Dressed lists a number of times. Here she is on the back. And this is, it's like an extended essay. It's only 100 pages. The most recent time I read, this sort of essay was Michaela Coel's Misfits, which I also recommend. So this one is about the joys of reinvention. There's negative connotations, like why reinvent the wheel, but there's also the positive connotations, which is definitely what Vivek is looking at. She talks about, for example, musical comebacks. She talks about Madonna, Lady Gaga, songs and cover songs. And the reinvention aspect of those. She talks about Halloween. Why dress up only to, be a monster or to be funny when you can play with aspects of your personality, yourself, and why limit it to 1 day a year? So I totally agree. This is thoughtful, personal, it's very engaging. She encourages us to embrace multiple selves. We have multiple identities. It's wonderful. Next up, Apsara Engine. Oh, great big giant book. It's a graphic novel, collection of stories actually, also by a South Asian trans femme author, creator. She's got a Master of Architectural Design, and so the the buildings and the interiors in this book, which I'll show you in a minute, are just gorgeous. And she's really good at drawing people as well. So the people in here, you know, the ones who are front and center are South Asian women. And there's definitely a queer sensibility through the whole, through all of the stories, although one in particular is specifically trans. It's called Swan Dive. What else can I say about this? It has a lot to say about urban living and friendship relationships. It is kind of slice of life, but most of the stories have just a touch of the uncanny or the multiverse, like everything might be what you would expect if you were, you know, going into a bar in Brooklyn, but somebody comes in with a dog that has a human face. You know, it's that kind of thing. Just a little bit uncanny. And Apsara, the Apsara of the title, those are celestial courtesans. And so she's drawn them, having lots of fun on the cover. I love her watercolor art. Most of the stories inside are in monotones. I can show you, for example, this is one of the stories that's not set in the city. It's at the beach. There's the beach house. Woman is going for a walk. And the atmosphere really comes through. The narrative running across the bottom is her inner thoughts. And what happens is that soon the illustrations don't seem to match with what her inner thoughts are. And it's a little bit shocking. It's really thrilling, unusual. I'm not going to spoil it for you, of course. I'll let you enjoy that yourself. The idea of knowing that the author is trans, I find adds something to my experience of reading this graphic novel. So, for example, here's a scene where a couple who are dating go to a party, and when they get there, they're greeted at the door by the host. She gives Rajiv a hug, and you can see how Rajiv is holding his body kind of away, kind of triangular. And what Mara says is, "Hey Rajiv, how's it hanging?" It's good. And so that reference to a body part that maybe Rajiv doesn't want to think about. We don't know that. There's nothing in this story that says that Rajiv might come out in the future as a trans woman. However, there's those subtle elements in here. The art is, you know, like sometimes you can see the texture that it's done on watercolor paper, textured paper, handwriting. Not all of them. Well, I think this is the only one that's done with text in handwriting right across like that. But architects, you know, they learn how to do a nice clear handwriting, and it's beautiful. Yeah. Oh, this is an absolutely wonderful book. Did I say the author's name? Bishakh. There, you can see her name there right in the middle. Bishakh. And I like this so much that I've already picked up their graphic memoir, Spellbound. And really looking forward to getting into that by Bishakh as well. Next up, Iron Goddess of Mercy by Larissa. Larissa, like Vivek Shraya, also teaches English at the University of Calgary. Well, is in the English department. I'm not sure what she teaches. And she has previously written 3 novels. I loved all of them. When Foxes 1,000, Saltfish Girl, and The Tiger Flew. And this is her 4th book of poetry. Simon Savage recently talked about how he loves when poets write fiction and nonfiction, that there's something just extra special about the language. And there definitely is here. Oh yeah. So it was my sweetie, actually. Lori read this out loud to me because of my vision problems. And she's a poet herself. She found it invigorating to read. She said she found it was giving her energy. It is like one long poem in 64 fragments. It's supposed to represent the 64 hexagrams of the I Ching. And, I'm just going to read you one little bit. I also learned on the back that it is drawing on a traditional Japanese form of travel writing called the haibun, in which each journal entry ends with sort of a haiku. And this is one of the little haiku bits at the end. Magpie chatter, awkward squawk, what grace your tail's blue shimmer. And because this is Lindy's Magpie Reads, I had to read you the magpie part. This is a little taste of what her writing is like. Dear Saint Iris, facing the virus of where I couldn't look, my reflection's bloody glare, death bright and mutilated in the light of red sun violence. I'm silent, though it protects me not a whit. Don't quit. You haunt my monster, clamoring in her cage of rage. And it goes on for another page and a half. Wow. I'm definitely going to be reading this again. So the reason I picked it up is because my Lesbian Book Club has chosen this. Actually, I was the one that put it on the list. Our meeting is not until the final Monday of January. So I will have a chance to read it again. I do look forward to reading through it again. And yeah, it's... What can I say? What can I say? The title, Iron Goddess, is a kind of oolong tea, and Goddess of Mercy is Kuan Yin. It is, a lot of it is about Hong Kong and the history of Hong Kong. There were so many times where I connected with something else that I had read or, popular culture from my experience, movies, music, books. There were 4 words that vividly brought another whole book to mind, and those 4 words were Winnipeg, Grenadiers, Christmas Day. And I read this book by Judy Schultz called Freddy's War, a novel. And in it, there's a young man who's underage, but he signs up for the Canadian Army for World War II. And he's sent, along with the Winnipeg Grenadiers, to Hong Kong to help defend the British colonial settlement there. And on Christmas Day, he experiences the massacre and the surrender by the British to the invading Japanese forces. So that was, like I said, just those 4 words, and it brought this whole scenario back to mind from this historical fiction that I had read. And so many other great things came to mind as well. I read Atlas of Poetic Zoology by Emmanuel Puidabat. It's translated from French by Eric Butler. I was disappointed in this book. I taped a long rant about it, 25 minutes, about all my disappointments. So if you want to know more about it, there'll be a link in the show notes. It did inspire me, though, to pick up a book about the Kakapo, which is a giant flightless parrot from New Zealand. The book is called Kakapo Rescue, Saving the World's Strangest Parrot, and it's written by Cy Montgomery, who also wrote The Soul of an Octopus, which you might have heard about. And Cy Montgomery has also written a lot of other science books for kids. This book is actually aimed at children. It was the audio that I checked out from the library, the digital audio, and the narrator is Andrea Gallo. She's an actor, and she's done a lot of science and other nonfiction audiobooks for adults and kids. Did I say it's only 2 hours and 15 minutes long? The narrator's voice is nice and warm and clear, easy to listen to, and the story is basically about the scientists and wildlife rangers and volunteers who are all working on this one little island, Codfish Island, to save a very endangered bird. It was published in 2010, and at that time there were only about 87 known birds left in the entire world. And since then, I went on to the New Zealand Department of Conservation website where they have a Kakapo recovery page, and they're up to 201 individuals now, so that's good. One of the birds that's talked about in Kakapo Rescue is a male called Sirocco, and this bird was raised by humans and imprinted on humans, and so it wants to mate with humans. Cy Montgomery talks about that, how this bird will just kind of jump on you. Well, I discovered that Sirocco is now somewhere else. He is at Zealandia, which is a wildlife refuge in Wellington, and there is a hilarious video of a photographer who is trying to film Sirocco, and Sirocco wants to mate with the photographer. So I'm going to link to that video for your viewing pleasure. What else am I also reading? The Edge of the Sea by Rachel Carson. This is a reread for me, or I'm listening to the audiobook actually. I've got about 2 hours left in that. And the reason I picked it up is because Doris of Audiobooks and Heidi of My Reading Life are doing the Book Naturalists Book Club again. And the month of January is an author spotlight for Rachel Carson. And I've read her stuff in the past and really love it. And I was just in the mood for that kind of listening. So it's really good. There'll be more on that next week. And I guess at the end of the month too, when the Book Naturalists do their videos. I am listening to The Evening Hour by Carter Sickels. Sean the Book Maniac is reading that out loud to on Voxer to Kendra Winchester, and he's also sharing it with me. I will link to the video where he talks about that reading project. And I'm also listening to The Arabian Nights. My friend Kathy is reading that out loud to me on Voxer. It's so good to have friends I think we're, I don't know, the 40th or the 50th night. If there's 1,001, we've got many more to go. And as I mentioned last Friday, I'm also listening to the love songs of W.E.B. Du Bois by Honorée Jeffers. I've got about 12 more hours to go on that out of 30 hours. It's a long audio. And the last thing that I've just picked up is The Girl Who Drew Butterflies. It is about the life of a remarkable scientist. And the reason that I picked it up is because of Britta Bowler. So she talked about a book, I think, that just had this woman's name, Maria Sibylla Merian. So she talked about her on her channel that I'll link. That was a book by Sarah Pomeroy. And in the past, I read a picture book biography about her, Summer Birds, The Butterflies of Maria Merian. That one was by Margarita Engel. I can't remember who the illustrator was of that book, but unfortunately, they didn't have the illustrations that Maria Merian did. This book has got Maria Merian's illustrations. It's got a lot of photographs. Okay. It's really heavily illustrated with also text that Maria Merian wrote. And the author is Joyce Sidman. I love this author. I know her as a children's nature poet. You could pick up anything by Joyce Sidman if you're looking for nature poetry, especially kids' nature poetry. She's excellent. I don't remember ever reading anything by her that was a longer science text like this one is, and biography, I guess. But really excited by that. So here we have another poet, this time writing nonfiction. So much great reading. I would love to hear if any of you have read these and what you thought of them, and if you have other recommendations for me. And I look forward to seeing you again in the next one.